Chapter 51, his companies, unlettered or rude and shallow. What is this? James Barbage's plan to convert part of Blackfriars into a private theater, thus circumvent the authority of the city fathers, was not advancing. In the early winter of 1596, it was criticized by 31 residents in the immediate vicinity. Their petition objected to the erection of a common playhouse, which will grow to be of very great annoyance and trouble. It's like a zoning issue, not only to the noblemen and gentlemen there about inhabiting, but also a general inconvenience to all the inhabitants of the said precinct, by reason of the gathering together of all manner of lewd and vagrant persons. There were allusions to the great pestering and filling up of the same precinct, to the loud sound of drums and trumpets coming from the stage. We're talking about zoning issues and how to deal with them. Another piece of playhouse business was responsible for Shakespeare's next entry into the public records. He had played some part in aborted negotiations for Lord Chamberlain's men to use Francis Langley's theatre, the Swan on Bankside. It was really readily available alternative to the Curtain and the Disputed and the Swan on Bankside. It was readily available alternative to the Curtain and the Disputed Theatre. The Swan had been erected by Langsley 2 years before in the neighborhood of Paris Garden. It was the latest and grandest of the public theatre. There is this famous drawing of it by Johannes de Witt, and such was the ubiquity of the sprint that for many years it was taken as the model of all the 16th century playhouses, since each playhouse differed from every other. It was an unwarrantable assumption. In his notes, DeWitt explains that the Swan is the largest and most magnificent, unquote, unquote, of the London playhouses, capable of holding 3,000 spectators. It was constructed of a, quote, mass of flint stones, of which there is prodigious supply in Breton, and supported by wooden columns painted in such excellent imitation of marble that is able to deceive even the most cunning. He also disclosed that it, quote, its form resembles that of a Roman work, unquote. Langsley's intent was that of somewhat cheap magnificence. Despite its exterior luster, however, the Swan never achieved any great theatrical eminence. If the Lord Chamberlain's men had moved there in the winter of 1596, its theatrical history would have been very different. Connection between Shakespeare and Langsley is to be found in a portion of a certain William Waite, who in the autumn of 1596 named them both together with Dorothy Sower and Anne Lee in a writ Obimitum Mortis. Waite was alerting that he stood in danger of death and grave physical harm from Shakespeare and others. This was a legal device for the completion of a writ, however, and did not necessarily mean that Shakespeare had threatened to kill him. It transpired that Francis Langley himself had previously taken out a writ against Waite and his stepfather, William Gardner, Justice of the Peace, with special jurisdiction in Paris Garden, had a reputation in the district for corruption corruption and general chicanery, and apparently sought to close down the Swan Theatre. Waite may have encountered some kind of resistance from Shakespeare and his co-defendants, while in fact attempting to do so. But this is supposition. We only know for certain that Shakespeare was somehow involved with the imbroglio. It has in fact been suggested by some theatrical scholars that the Lord Chamberlain's men played at the Swan for a short season, but there is no evidence of this except from a stray reference in Thomas Decker's Satiro Mystic on, quote, "My name's Hamlet, revenge. Thou hast been at Paris Garden, hast not? Question. My name's Hamlet, revenge. Thou hast been at Paris Garden, hast not?" It is perhaps worth noting that Langsley himself enjoyed a somewhat dubious reputation as a money broker and minor civic official who had managed to accumulate a large fortune. He had been charged by the Attorney General, in no less a tribute than the Star Chamber, of violence and of extortion. Sharp practice has always been a London specialty. He had purchased the manor of Paris Garden in order to build and let out tenements, and of course there were also brothels in that particular neighborhood. One of those named in the petition, Dorothy Sower, owned property in Paris Garden Lane and gave her name to cheap lodgings, known as Sower's Rents or Sawyer's Rents. It's more than likely that some of the tenements in that lane were of low repute. Shakespeare may even have lived among them. The 18th century scholar Edmond Malone has left a note stating that, quote, "From a paper now before me, which formerly belonged to Edward Allen, the player, our poet, appears to have lived in Southward, near the Bear Garden in 1596. That paper has never been recovered. But whatever the date of Shakespeare's removal to the south bank of the Thames, Waite's petition reveals one salient point. Shakespeare was associated with people not altogether dissimilar to the comic pimps and bawds of his plays. He was thoroughly acquainted with the, quote, low life of London. It was an inevitable and inalienable part of his profession as a player. The fact is often forgotten in accounts of, quote, gentle, unquote, Shakespeare. But it is undoubtedly true that he knew at first hand the depths as well as the heights of urban life. And then for the winter season he was once more in front of the Queen. Lord Chamberlain's men gave 6 performances at court, among them of the Merchant of Venice and King John. It is also possible that Falstaff made his appearance before the sovereign in the first part of Henry IV. We're going to see Henry IV soon. Right? There is a long, enduring story that Elizabeth was so taken with the comic rogue that she requested a play be written in which Falstaff falls in love. The request of Elizabeth were never lightly refused, and so appear the Merry Wives of Windsor. It is a charming, if unconfirmed story. The nature of the history of Henry IV, otherwise known as the first part of Henry IV, has been the subject of debate. It is not clear whether Shakespeare wrote it with part two in mind, or whether the narrative grew under his hand. The first part did, in any case, provoke controversy of another kind. The Lord Chamberlain, Sir William Brooke, Lord Cobham, have been alerted to the fact that the play's principal comic character was named Sir John Oldcastle. He may well have first seen the play in the presence of the Queen at court. He was related to the original Oldcastle and was not pleased with the farce surrounding the theatrical namesake. The real Oldcastle had been a supporter of the Lollards, who had led an abortive insurrection against Henry V. Subsequently, he had been executed for treason, but he was considered by many to have been a proto-Protestant, thus an early martyr to the cause of Reformation. His descendant did not approve of his presentation as a thief, braggart, coward, and drunk. So Cobham wrote to the master of the rebels, Edwin Tilney, who in turn passed on the complaint to Shakespeare's Company. Shakespeare was then obliged in the second part of the play to change the name of his comic hero from Oldcastle to Falstaff. So there's some, looks like we have censorship going on here. Publicly to disavow his original creation. It is not clear why in the beginning Shakespeare chose the name of Oldcastle. It has been suggested that Shakespeare's, quote, secret, unquote, Catholic sympathies led him to lampoon this Lollard and anti-Catholic. In his church history, Thomas Fuller writes of Shakespeare's original use of Oldcastle. But, quote, but it matters as little what petulant poets as what malicious papists have written against him, unquote. But it seems unlikely that any over-Catholic bias entered the play. The name of Oldcastle had already appeared in the famous victories of Henry V, and Shakespeare may simply have borrowed it without considering the connection with Cobham. It was in any case changed, and not without a certain humiliation on Shakespeare's part. In an epilogue to the second part of Henry IV, he himself came upon the stage and announced that, quote, for anything I know, Falstaff shall die of a sweat, unless already be killed with my hard opinions. For Oldcastle died a martyr, and this is not the man, unquote. Then he danced, and afterward knelt for the applause. You're gonna watch Henry IV? The connection was not fully erased, however, in a letter to Robert Cecil, the Earl of Essex, gave out the news that a certain lady was married to Sir Joe Falstaff. This was the court nickname now given to Lord Cobham. The name of Oldcastle was also still associated with Henry IV, and, in fact, the Lord Chamberlain's men played for the Burgundian ambassador a play entitled Sir John Oldcastle. Shakespeare's inventions have a habit